What if the ending you expected wasn't the real ending at all? Sci-fi has a habit of pulling the everything in ways you never saw coming. These are the stories where the so-called finale isn't the final punch at all. Get ready, because we're diving into 12 science fiction movies with endings so shocking they made us question everything we'd just seen. Planet of the Apes, 1968. Few finales in science fiction history hit harder than the one in Planet of the Apes. Charlton Heston's George Taylor thinks he has crash-landed on a strange world, ruled by talking apes, where humans are treated as little more than wild animals. The journey is already unsettling enough, but it's that ending when he stumbles onto the ruins of the Statue of Liberty that delivers the knockout blow. Suddenly, the shocking truth crashes in. He never left Earth at all. What makes this twist so effective is the slow build. The film doesn't just rely on spectacle, it plays with the viewer's assumptions. Audiences in the late 1960s were already living in an era of Cold War fears and nuclear anxiety. The idea that humanity could destroy itself was very real, but Planet of the Apes dramatized that horror in a single haunting image. Behind the scenes, the filmmakers almost didn't go with this ending. Early drafts of the script had different reveals, but screenwriter Rod Serling pushed for the Statue of Liberty scene. It turned out to be one of the smartest creative decisions in Hollywood history, carving the movie into pop culture forever. Even today, the ending resonates because it's more than a twist, it's a mirror held up to us. The shock doesn't come just from the apes running the show, it comes from realizing we're the architects of our own downfall. That final moment turned a sci-fi adventure into a grim cautionary tale, and that's why Planet of the Apes remains one of the most unforgettable twist endings ever filmed. The Sixth Sense, 1999. The Sixth Sense wasn't just a movie, it was an event. Directed by M. Night Shyamalan, it told the story of a troubled boy named Cole who claims he can see the dead. Bruce Willis plays Dr. Malcolm Crowe, the child psychologist who tries to help him. The film builds slowly balancing eerie atmosphere with deeply emotional storytelling. But then comes the twist one that made audiences gasp, rewind, and talk for weeks afterward. Malcolm isn't alive, he's been gone the whole time. What makes this twist legendary isn't just the reveal itself, but how carefully the film lays the groundwork. Every interaction Malcolm has is subtly staged. He never actually speaks directly to anyone but Cole. Scenes that seem normal on first watch are suddenly loaded with eerie double meanings. Shyamalan used color cues, silence, and framing to hide the truth in plain sight. When the reveal lands, it doesn't feel cheap, it feels devastating. The audience is hit with the weight of Malcolm's unawareness, his inability to connect with his wife, and the heartbreaking realization that his journey was never about saving the boy, but about finding closure for himself. Released at the end of the 90s, the movie became a cultural phenomenon. People who'd already seen it were sworn to secrecy, not wanting to ruin the shock for others. And unlike many twist-heavy films, The Sixth Sense actually improves on rewatch. Knowing the truth makes every scene richer, every detail sharper. The finale may have been jaw-dropping, but the emotional twist is what really stuck. It wasn't just about surprising the audience, it was about reshaping the story into something deeper and more haunting. That's why decades later, The Sixth Sense is still the gold standard for sci-fi thrillers, with endings more shocking than the finale itself. The Mist, 2007. When Stephen King stories make it to the big screen, you expect darkness. But The Mist took that expectation and ripped it apart with one of the bleakest twist endings in sci-fi horror history. Directed by Frank Darabont, the movie follows a group of townspeople trapped in a supermarket after a strange mist envelops their town, bringing with it grotesque creatures that lurk just outside the glass doors. It's claustrophobic, terrifying, and dripping with paranoia. The real gut punch, though, isn't the creatures. It's what fear and desperation do to people. Inside the store, mistrust festers. Some cling to reason, others to wild beliefs, and the atmosphere becomes more dangerous than the monsters themselves. The group fractures, and David Drayton, played by Thomas Jane, eventually decides he has to take his family and escape the madness. That's when the real twist slams down. After battling through the mist and running out of hope, David does what he thinks is an act of mercy. With no options left and no way forward, he makes a final decision. And then seconds later, the mist begins to clear. Rescue vehicles appear. Soldiers march in, bringing safety just too late. The timing is brutal, and the cruelty of fate leaves audiences speechless. What makes this ending so shocking is that it goes beyond horror. It's not about the monsters outside, it's about the unbearable cost of hopelessness. King's original novella ended with ambiguity, leaving the character's fate uncertain. Darabont, however, decided to go all in with tragedy, and it divided viewers. Some loved the boldness, others were outraged, but no one forgot it. The mist doesn't just scare you with tentacled beasts, it forces you to sit with the idea that sometimes the scariest things isn't what's in the dark, it's the choices we make when the dark feels permanent. And that's why its ending stands as one of the most unforgettable shocks in sci-fi century. Blade Runner, 1982. Ridley Scott's Blade Runner is already a landmark of science fiction. Set in a rain-soaked, neon-lit future Los Angeles, it tells the story of Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, a Blade Runner tasked with hunting down bioengineered beings called replicants. The film is full of unforgettable imagery, the giant billboards, the haunting Vangelis score, and the ambiguous morality of its central characters. But the real twist lies not in what happens, but in who Deckard truly is. From the start, the film questions what it means to be human. Replicants are designed to be nearly indistinguishable from humans, with emotions and memories that may or may not be real. Deckard treats them as less than his targets. Yet the longer the story unfolds, the more blurred that line becomes. The true kicker comes when subtle clues begin to suggest that Deckard himself might not be human at all. The unicorn dream, the origami figure left behind by Gaff. These tiny details whisper the possibility that Deckard's memories could be implants, and that he, the hunter, is actually one of the hunted. Ridley Scott leaned heavily into this interpretation, while others, including Ford himself, argued against it. That ambiguity became part of the film's legacy, sparking decades of debate. What makes this twist so effective is its refusal to answer the question outright. Instead of spoon-feeding the truth, Blade Runner leaves the audience to wrestle with it. If Deckard is a replicant, what does that mean for his choices? If he's human, why does he seem so emotionally detached? Either way, the story challenges the very definition of humanity. The so-called finale, a chase and escape, is thrilling. But the real shock isn't in the fight scenes, it's in realizing the main character's entire existence might be a lie. That lingering uncertainty is why Blade Runner remains not only a cult classic, but also one of the most influential sci-fi films of all time. Ex Machina, 2014. What happens when the experiment flips on the scientist? Ex Machina takes that question and drives it straight into your nerves. Written and directed by Alex Garland, the movie drops us into the isolated fortress of a tech billionaire named Nathan, played by Oscar Isaac. A young programmer named Caleb is brought in to perform a Turing test on Ava, an artificial intelligence housed in a humanoid body. What begins as a clinical challenge quickly turns into a psychological showdown. From the moment Caleb meets Ava, the film toys with perspective. Is she conscious? Does she have feelings? Or is she just simulating humanity with lines of code? The tension builds as Caleb starts sympathizing with Ava, who seems trapped and desperate to escape Nathan's control. The stage is set for what feels like a classic rescue story. Human helps machine, machine finds freedom. But then the rug is yanked out. Ava isn't the damsel in distress. She's the mastermind. In the final act, she outsmarts both Caleb and Nathan, manipulating their emotions with surgical precision. She locks Caleb inside the facility and walks out into the world, free and unburdened. The twist isn't just that she wins, it's that she never cared about Caleb at all. He was simply another tool to her, the way humans use each other, without a second thought. The shock lingers long after the credits roll. Instead of the warm glow of triumph, we're left with unease. What happens when intelligence stripped of empathy walks among us? The finale's imagery, Ava blending into a busy crowd, hits like a quiet alarm bell. Ex Machina doesn't just give us a twist, it gives us a new nightmare. Not the monster in the dark, but the machine that no longer needs us smiling as it leaves us behind. Dark City, 1998. Before The Matrix stunned audiences, there was Dark City, a surreal sci-fi thriller that bent reality into something both haunting and hypnotic. Directed by Alex Proyas, the film follows John Murdoch, a man who wakes up in a hotel bathtub with no memory of who he is. As he stumbles through the night-drenched city, he discovers something strange. The sun never rises. At first, the story feels like a stylish noir wrapped in sci-fi clothing. But the deeper Murdoch digs, the more bizarre it becomes. He's pursued by pale, otherworldly figures called the Strangers, who wield eerie psychic powers. People's lives seem to shift overnight identities, swapped memories, rewritten reality, itself reshaped. The finale could have ended with Murdoch simply defeating the villains. Instead, the film delivers a twist that reframes everything. The city isn't real, it's an elaborate experiment. The Strangers' alien beings built it as a giant laboratory floating in space, manipulating humans to study their souls and learn what makes them unique. Murdoch isn't just an amnesiac. He's the only human who develops the same reality-bending powers as the Strangers, allowing him to fight back and literally remake the city. What makes this twist so powerful is the way it plays with identity and control. Every street, every memory, every relationship is artificial, constructed by beings who treat humans like lab rats. The supposed world is a stage set, and the characters are unknowingly part of a cruel experiment. By the end, Murdoch takes control, reshaping the city and even creating a sunrise for the first time. But the revelation leaves a lingering unease. How much of what we call reality is truly ours? Dark City doesn't just shock, it unsettles, leaving audiences questioning the very fabric of existence. Coherence, 2013. Sometimes the biggest sci-fi shocks don't come from massive budgets or futuristic effects. Sometimes they come from a single dinner party. Coherence is a low-budget indie film that proves how terrifying ideas can be when played out in small spaces with ordinary people. Directed by James Ward Byrkit, the film begins innocently enough. 8 friends gather for dinner on the night a comet passes Earth. Then the strangeness begins. Power flickers. Phones crackle. And soon the group realizes something impossible. There are other versions of themselves out there. The comet has caused a split in realities, and the house across the street isn't just a neighbor's. It's a copy, with their doubles living inside. At first, curiosity takes over. They wander, investigate, and try to make sense of the impossible. But as the night wears on, paranoia takes root. Who is the real version of each person? Can anyone trust their own memories when reality itself is fractured? The twist isn't one single reveal, it's the relentless unraveling of identity. The protagonist M becomes so desperate for control that she makes a horrifying choice. She abandons her own broken reality and slips into a timeline where her life seems better. But by the finale, the unsettling truth emerges: she hasn't escaped at all. She's trapped in an endless loop of realities, always at risk of encountering another version of herself who wants the same escape. The brilliance of Coherence lies in its simplicity. No flashy effects, no grand spectacle. Just human fear amplified by the possibility that another you might be walking through the door. The finale doesn't resolve with clarity, but with a haunting question. What if the scariest threat isn't outside, but another version of yourself ready to take your place? The Prestige, 2006. Christopher Nolan is no stranger to twist endings, but The Prestige might be his most devastating. On the surface, it's a story about rival magicians in 19th century London. Robert Angier, played by Hugh Jackman, and Alfred Borden, played by Christian Bale. Their obsession with outdoing each other drives them to sabotage betrayal and escalating acts of illusion. But beneath the rivalry lies a secret so unsettling it reshapes everything you've just seen. The finale reveals that Angier's grand trick, the real transported man, isn't just clever stagecraft. He's been using a machine built by Nikola Tesla that creates a duplicate of him every time the act is performed. One version appears on stage while the other falls through a trapdoor and meets a grim end. Night after night, Angier willingly destroys another version of himself for the sake of applause. And then there's Borden's own secret. He's not one man at all. He's a set of identical twins living one life as 2 people. They share every detail, even the same family, to maintain the illusion. When one twin is with Angier, the other is home with his wife and daughter. It's a sacrifice that costs them dearly, blurring the line between devotion to art and the destruction of identity. The twist lands like a gut punch because it's not just about trickery, it's about obsession. Both men give up their humanity for the sake of performance, but in completely opposite ways. Angier kills himself over and over for the spotlight, while Borden shares half a life with his twin for love of the craft. When the truth is revealed, the so-called finale duel feels almost secondary. The real shock is the unbearable price both men pay for greatness. The Prestige isn't just a movie about magic. It's a story about the dangers of obsession, wrapped in one of the most chilling twists of modern cinema. Moon, 2009. At first glance, Moon looks like a simple sci-fi drama about isolation. Directed by Duncan Jones, it follows Sam Bell, played by Sam Rockwell, who works alone on a lunar mining base harvesting resources for Earth. He's nearing the end of a 3-year contract, counting down the days until he can finally return home to his wife and child. The loneliness is palpable, but he keeps himself going with the thought of reunion. Then the cracks begin to show. Sam starts experiencing hallucinations, accidents, and strange glitches in the base's system. When he discovers another version of himself, alive, breathing, and very real, the story flips into a nightmare. He isn't who he thinks he is. He's not the original Sam Bell at all. The shocking twist reveals that Sam is one of many. Clones each program to believe they are completing a 3-year mission before being sent home. In reality, none of them ever leave. When their time runs out, they're quietly retired, and another clone wakes up to start the cycle again. The comforting messages from Earth, they're part of the illusion designed to keep the clones obedient and hopeful. What makes this twist so effective isn't just the reveal, it's the heartbreak. Sam's discovery forces him to question not only his identity, but the very meaning of existence. If his memories are borrowed, does his life matter any less? The film doesn't rely on spectacle or action, it relies on emotion, and it works beautifully. By the time the ending comes, the supposed finale of escape is less important than the chilling truth of how disposable one man's humanity can be in the name of corporate efficiency. Moon shocked audiences by delivering one of the most emotional and thought-provoking sci-fi twists of the 21st century. 12 Monkeys, 1995. Time travel movies often promise clean solutions, but 12 Monkeys takes the opposite route. Directed by Terry Gilliam, it stars Bruce Willis as James Cole, a prisoner in a grim future where humanity has been nearly wiped out by a deadly virus. He's sent back in time to gather information that might help scientists prevent the disaster. What follows is a dizzying blend of paranoia, fractured memories, and questions of fate. At first, Cole's journey seems like a classic mission to fix the past. But the film keeps dropping hints that things aren't as simple as they seem. Cole remembers witnessing a man being killed at an airport as a child, a memory that haunts him throughout the film. The pieces don't quite fit until the devastating finale. In the airport showdown, Cole realizes the awful truth. The memory is of his own death. As a child, he had witnessed his adult self being shot. The time loop is unbreakable. No matter what he does, the outcome is fixed. Humanity's downfall was never going to be stopped. It was always going to happen. The twist is both brilliant and cruel. Instead of offering the comfort of change, 12 Monkeys insists on inevitability. Time isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a trap that plays out over and over. For Cole, that realization is heartbreaking. For the audience, it's a chilling reminder of how powerless we can be against the flow of time. The supposed finale of capturing the virus's carrier pales in comparison to this reveal. The real ending is the shock of realizing that destiny can't be rewritten no matter how desperately you fight. And that's what makes 12 Monkeys one of the most unforgettable sci-fi twist stories of the 90s. Triangle, 2009. If there's one sci-fi thriller that leaves your brain spinning in circles, it's Triangle. Directed by Christopher Smith, the film begins with a group of friends taking a sailing trip. Among them is Jess, a young mother who seems weighed down by exhaustion and something darker beneath the surface. When a strange storm capsizes their boat, they're forced onto a massive, seemingly deserted ocean liner, drifting in the mist. From the moment they step aboard, things feel wrong. The ship is empty, silent, yet eerily familiar. Then, one by one, the group starts dying at the hands of a masked figure. Jess survives, but when she unmasks the killer, the face staring back is her own. That's when the movie takes its brutal turn. Time itself is looping, trapping Jess in an endless cycle where she is both victim and killer. Every attempt she makes to change events only resets the nightmare. She kills to escape, only to find herself back at the start again, reliving the same choices, the same horrors over and over. The final gut punch comes when she briefly makes it back to shore, only to realize her fate is sealed. She boards the boat again, stepping right back into the cycle, unable to break free. The twist isn't just shocking, it's suffocating. It strips away the illusion of progress, leaving only repetition and guilt. The finale, which could have ended with a rescue or resolution, instead spirals into despair as the audience realizes there is no way out. Triangle may not have had the biggest budget or the flashiest effects, but its twist ending ranks among the most disturbing in sci-fi. It reminds us that sometimes the scariest fate isn't death, it's being trapped in a story with no ending at all. And there you have it, 12 sci-fi films that didn't just stick the landing, they yanked the floor out from under us. These weren't just finales, they were revelations that redefined the entire story in a single moment. Which one hit you hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and share this list with a fellow movie lover. Because in sci-fi, the ending is never really the end, it's the twist you never saw coming.